Okay, put your tinfoil hats on, because today we are traveling to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Don't worry, this is still a tech channel, so we'll not discuss politics, economics, or the environmental impact of flying hundreds of private jets to an exclusivist Swiss location to talk about climate change. However, in this Monday morning review episode, we have to discuss AI yet again, because this is the only thing all these tech CEOs are obsessed with. For a bit of context, a few days ago I posted my first real dev experience with a coding agent, and I got wrecked in the comments. Of course, I oversimplified the whole process to keep you guys engaged, but apparently I am a complete noob that has no idea how to work with these state-of-the-art tools. Based on some of the comments, I did everything wrong. Choosing Codex and GPT 5.2 was a mistake, because clearly this is the worst agent possible. I did not create a proper execution plan with a detailed specification, I had no markdown files with system instructions, and I didn't leverage a model context protocol server. The consensus among AI enthusiasts was that this is a clear skill issue on my part. On the other side of this debate, people claimed that AI is complete garbage and that all these AI companies are destined to fail. Common sense usually dictates that the reality is somewhere in the middle, but I know I'm too dumb to actually understand where all this is going. However, since I'm as concerned as you guys about the future of software, I'm doing my best to understand where all this is going, so for the past week I wasted my Netflix and chill time listening to the AI predictions of all these tech and world leaders. And, by the looks of it, these guys are either as clueless as we are, or they are just blatantly lying. Let me explain. In my attempt to better understand the current situation, I spent the last couple of months studying in detail the technical aspects of AI models. Call me crazy, but I actually want to understand what this technology actually is before trusting a random stranger on the internet claiming it'll kill my hopes and dreams. We all know that LLMs are just machines good at making really accurate predictions sometimes.
60% of the time, it works. Every time.
So I watched tons of courses, including a really great 3-hour deep dive from Mr. Karpathy, and I've been reading a bunch of books on the matter. I still feel like I just scratched the surface, and I'm not an expert on the subject, but now I'm more confident than a few months back to assess some of the claims about the future of these AI models. So let's go to the World Economic Forum panel discussing the day after AGI, which is a title implying that AGI is a certainty, a solved problem already, so we now have to worry about what comes next. Let's ignore the first comment, because we don't usually pay attention to facts or the truth when we discuss the bright future of AI. The discussion was between the CEO of DeepMind Technologies, which, to be fair, had a fairly moderate approach all things considered, and the CEO of Anthropic, mostly known for predictions such as this one.
We are not far from a world, I think we'll be there in 3 to 6 months, where AI is writing 90% of the code.
90% of the code.
He didn't disappoint this time either, claiming that we might be 6 to 12 months away from when the model will do most, maybe all of what software engineers do today. Yes, 1 year ago, he predicted that AI will write almost all the code in 6 months. Now, 1 year later, he is predicting again that AI will write almost all the code in 6 months. I also predict that 1 year from now, he will predict again that AI will write all the code in the next 6 months. And if you look closely at the screen, you'll see a pattern emerging, and now everything is clear. Remember that I told you to put your tinfoil hats on. On a more serious note, what I want to focus on is this notion that AI will become so good at coding that it'll be able to run in a loop and program itself new, more capable models. I don't know how else to say this, but this is simply not possible with the current architecture. One thing is certain. Models are good at exact sciences like math or programming because the outputs can be very easily validated. Code either compiles or not, and the math proof is either correct or not. This makes training of models easier for these exact scenarios, but things get much more difficult once you get into things that don't have a clean binary notion of correctness. In software, for instance, compiling is not the only metric that matters when writing code. At this time, it is clear that current general-purpose AI models built on attention-based architecture can't come up with anything new or novel. They can rearrange the existing knowledge based on probabilities and inference to make it sound like it's a new thing. But the reality is that their answers are just random tokens used in their training step, arranged in a way that makes probabilistic sense. This is a fundamental limitation of the transformer architecture, and it actually has a term describing it. That phrase comes from a 2021 paper from researchers at Google, and it caused a minor corporate meltdown at the time, mostly because it dared to say something deeply unfashionable. Large language models do not understand anything. They are parrots. Very expensive, very fluent parrots. Of course, there is a lot of debate in academic circles on the topic of AIs being able to generate new original ideas, but at this point in time, there is no concrete proof that this limitation has been overcome. Even reinforcement learning doesn't magically fix this, despite how often it's invoked as the silver bullet. Reinforcement learning still requires a reward signal that comes from outside the model. Basically, someone outside the system has to define what's the expected path. Back to the video, Mr. Hassabis has a more skeptical approach. Don't get me wrong, he still needs to hype the product he is working on, but at least he is trying to be honest. When he was asked if he believes AI will wipe out 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs in 5 years, he replied with a lot of maybes. Note that there is a big distinction between AI will take all our jobs and AI will be able to maybe replace some juniors in 5 years. And that's coming from the CEO of DeepMind, not from a random skeptic on Twitter. In plain terms, he said that there's still quite a lot more to be done before we'll see that kind of disruption. And, more importantly, a lot of the things they still have to do are unknowns. What's important to note is that the current AI architecture has plateaued and there is little else they can achieve with this model. Sure, they can stack up more chips and more training, but this doesn't guarantee they'll get to any new breakthroughs. It looks like the hope in all these AI labs is to create a self-improvement loop where models work together internally to get better and maybe come up with more flexible, powerful architectures. To sum up, yes, I believe AI will be in charge of generating a lot of the boilerplate code moving forward. That's a good thing, because, let's be honest, this is why we were using frameworks and libraries in the first place. However, I don't believe there will be any major impact in the industry in the next decade with the current AI architecture. And anyone claiming we are even close to AGI is either joking or a moron. A few days ago, I found a short blog article which perfectly describes AI. AI is just like a horse. It is faster than your feet depending on the terrain, but you have to tell it where to turn, even if it might guess right sometimes. And let's be honest, it's kind of funny that this technology is supposed to revolutionize everything, while they are currently struggling to make money with it. The CEO of Microsoft recently commented that AI needs to actually prove its worth. We as a global community have to get to a point where we're using this to do something useful that changes the outcomes of people and communities and countries and industries. Otherwise, I don't think this makes much sense. Too many people talked about the bubble in AI, so there is no point in reiterating the huge investments which will probably be dead in a few years. But the reality is that the system is starting to crack. A few years ago, OpenAI said that adding ads into ChatGPT would be a last resort solution.
I kind of think of ads as like a last resort for us for a business model. I would do it if it meant that was the only way to get everybody in the world like access to great services. But if we can find something that doesn't do that, I'd prefer that.
Well, they are at that point now because they just announced a new $8 plan which will have ads enabled. I want these Monday morning reviews to be a collaboration, so please let me know in the comments if there are any specific topics you want us to discuss next. If you like this video, you should check out one of these ones next. Please smash all the buttons, and until next time, thank you for watching.